The burnout is real. Let's talk about the elephant in the YouTube room. It's something that I feel like has been exposed a lot in the last year, especially by bigger creators who talked about taking breaks from their channels and needing to take a pause because of burnout. And it doesn't even matter if it's just YouTube. If you are a creator of any kind, and honestly, I feel like everyone kind of is in 2019, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an influencer or you're a vlogger, whatever it is, we're all creating some kind of content for social media. And it's kind of unnatural. If you think about 10 years ago, nobody was doing this. So we're all trying to navigate how to do it consistently without getting exhausted and burnt out, because that's not a fun place to be. And unfortunately, it's the least creative place to be. So I'd love to know, give this video a like if you've ever been in the position where you've just felt so burnt out. I've been there. I've been really honest about that. In August of 2017, I scared myself straight by having a really severe panic attack and actually ending up in the hospital because my burnout was at such a severe place. And it wasn't just because of YouTube. It was because I was growing a business, growing a team. My responsibilities exploded basically overnight, and I just felt so much pressure to be on and to be in this creative state all the time, and also to be in this entrepreneurial, business-minded state all the time. And that can be really exhausting. And particularly when you are solo, this is so exhausting. So I've been in your shoes. If you are solo, I do now have a team around me, which has been amazing and so helpful in making sure that I never end up back in that place. But if you're just starting out, it's important for you to not burn yourself out either, because when you burn yourself out, it's hard to come back from it. And it's also hard to get the motivation to start making anything creative again. And you sort of get scared to do it because you just don't want to get to that burnt out spot in the future. So for me, I've learned a lot of tools and tricks and tips to make sure that you stay creative, even when you are pumping out a lot of content. And there's so many little hacks that you can do to make sure that you stay consistent. So I wanted to share those with you today because the burnout is real, and I know a lot of people in this space have been talking about it. So I wanted to address some of the solutions as opposed to talking about the problem of burnout, because you will probably face this at some point if you haven't already. And if you have already, I would love to know in the comments, and please share your experience, because I think it's really, really important that the more we talk about this, the more that we make it normal and okay, and not something to be ashamed or embarrassed about, but something that we can all kind of work through together. So in this video, by the end of it, I'm gonna make sure that you have some tools and techniques and tips for your content and for your creativity to stay in that flow and to make sure that you're always on the top of your game, even when there are times when there's a lot going on. So the first thing, and I made a whole video about this, which you loved and has a really good amount of engagement on it, and it's all about content creation hacks. So if you want to check that out, we'll link to it as well. But one of the biggest takeaways from that video, and something that really, really helps me in avoiding getting to that burnt out spot and lacking motivation, is to make sure I'm planning ahead. So I'm a big believer in batching content, and I think it's a savior in making sure that you always stay consistent, because if you have content batched, you can always go back to it. You can always use it. But if you have a week where you're like, you know what, I'm feeling really inspired, I'm gonna make a new fresh piece of content, that's awesome. You can put out that fresh piece of content, but at least you know you have safety of other content that you also have there as well. So it takes that pressure off to be creative. Because the thing about being creative is that it does come in waves sometimes, and you can't force yourself to get into that inspired, creative place. So by batching your content in one foul swoop, you can stay creative, stay in a zone, and have really good content behind you, just in case you have kind of an off week or an off couple of weeks even. So when I film my content, most of the time, I'm sitting down and I'm filming at least 2 videos at a time. Most of the time I'm doing 4 videos at once in one sitting and in one day, because again, it's helping me have a safety net so I'm not under pressure to be creative and to have brand new ideas on a weekly basis. And I've learned this firsthand because when I first started on YouTube, I was making a new video every single week. I would sit down once a week and make a new video, and it was such a difficult way to do things because it put me under the gun every single week to make sure that it got done. And whenever you're under any kind of pressure, it's a lot harder to be creative in that zone. So batching is helpful. When I was solo, I would make sure that I would do it all on my own. I would sit down for a day, I would block off a week, and I would write the scripts all at once. I would get into a flow because there's this thing called context switching, which is, say I'm working on writing a script, but then at the same time my email's going off and then I also have to go to a meeting. There's no way that you can do a good job on the script because you're thinking about all these other things and your context in your head is switching, which can cost you a lot of time and a lot of mental energy. So staying in one zone and focusing on one thing at a time and one creative flow at a time is gonna help you pump out so much more content. I do the same thing when it comes to Instagram. I'll sit down and write a bunch of fun new captions or stories, and I have those in my back pocket just in case I need them. So batching will save you and make sure that you're not hitting that burnout zone by trying to create new content on the fly. The next thing I do to avoid creative burnout is make sure that I don't get decision fatigue. And if you haven't heard that term before, basically what it is the more decisions you have to make, the more exhausted your brain gets and the more energy you're putting into trying to make decisions. And that's a really tough way to do anything. I also equate this to if you're trying to create a new habit, say you want to get up earlier in the morning. If you want to get up earlier in the morning, but you haven't laid out anything ahead of time and you're getting up and just hoping that the day's going to go as planned, you're probably not going to stick to it. So in the example of getting up earlier in the morning, I make sure my gym clothes are laid out, my shoes are ready to go, and I have my lemon water sitting on the counter so that I don't have to make any decisions. And same thing goes with being creative. The less decisions I have to make about what kind of content to create, because I know you can probably relate to this. Sometimes you'll want to create a new fresh piece of content and you're like, I have no idea what I want to actually talk about. And that's decision fatigue. That's you basically being exhausted in your brain and not really knowing what to pull from. So something that I'll do is keep a list of any idea that pops into my head in my notes on my phone. So on my notes on my phone, I have a whole list of content ideas that I always refer back to. And it's things that you will send me via direct messages on Instagram or in comments on my Instagram feed or in the comments on my YouTube channel. And they're requests for different kinds of videos, or they're pieces of content that you've really, really liked or engaged with that I can turn into a potential video, or I can take from a video and turn into an Instagram post or some other kind of piece of content. So that's super helpful as well, is making sure that you're not having to make any extra decisions and you just have a bank for when you need them of creative ideas. The third thing is unfollowing creative killers. And this is something that I started doing about a year ago. I think I unfollowed about 3,000 accounts in one sitting. Well, not one sitting because Instagram didn't let me, but I did it over the span of like 2 weeks. And it has been amazing for my creativity levels. Because creative killers aren't necessarily accounts that you don't like. There actually can be accounts that you like, but they're probably getting into your brain of your own, and they're meshing with your own creative ideas. So you start to look like everybody else, sound like everybody else, and start to use the same branding as everybody else because that's all you're consuming. So as a creative person, as a content creator, you have a responsibility to protect your creativity and protect your ideas. And part of protecting them is unfollowing anything that's going to kind of get too intertwined or meshed in with the kind of content you want to create. So basically creativity killers are accounts that are a little too similar to what you want to be doing, or they're accounts that make you feel envy, or they're accounts that make you feel less than, or they're accounts that make you feel like you're just not good enough. Because when you feel like that, who's going to be creative? No one's going to want to be creative because you just don't feel like you're good enough to do it. So unfollowing people is super liberating for your creative spirit and your creativity in general. So make sure that you take that step. I know it's a hard thing to do, but nobody takes it personally. And if they do, they've got bigger problems. So just unfollow any accounts that are making you feel like you're killing your creativity or are making you feel like you're perhaps starting to take on their ideas as your own, because that's not allowing you to really flourish with your own thoughts, ideas, and expressions. The next thing that I like to do to avoid creative burnout is to get off of my phone, get off of my computer. I'll find that if I'm stuck in one spot for too long, and a lot of people work on their computers or work from home, and you're not really being inspired by much when you're in the same environment every single day. So what I like to do is I'll go for a really long walk. I will listen to music. I'll take in the arts in some way, shape, or form. I'll listen to new music. I'll go see a movie. I'll watch a new TV show. I will go see a play. Whatever it is, I'll go see a concert, even if it's a little local concert. Something that's gonna help me get re-inspired is so important, because you are an artist. As a content creator, you're an artist. So the more art you can take in all different kinds of genres. It doesn't matter if you're a musician. It's actually better if you're not. It's just a way to look at different creative expressions and feel that spark again, to get re-inspired and to get some new ideas and to get some space. Perspective and space is everything when you are a content creator. You need to have some breathing room to actually create. You can't create from an empty tank. You can't create from a place of give, create, but never filling yourself back up. So what are the things that fill you up? And it could be the arts. It could be things like going for a workout. It could be things like taking a bath, whatever that might be. It could be, for me, taking a dance class. That's so helpful for me in starting to feel creative again. So anything that kind of gives you some space, some breathing room, and some outside perspective from your little bubble of work and your phone and your screen is gonna help you get out of that creative funk. You are a super creative person, and any kind of content you're putting out there is amazing, because you know what? You're taking the action to actually do it, and that's better than a lot of people can say. So give yourself a pat on the back. Don't forget that, but also understand that you are a human being, and this is normal. If you're feeling tired, you're feeling exhausted, you're feeling burnt out, I get it, and I have been there, and it's gonna probably continue to happen, but taking all of these steps will make sure that you still can stay consistent, even if you have those moments of feeling a little bit tired or feeling a lot burnt out, which I hope you don't get there. But again, you are human. It may happen. So I would love for you to comment below and let me know how you deal with creative burnout and what your best tactics or techniques are, because this is a big community here, and I want us to be able to support one another in making sure that we don't hit that block, because it's super unproductive. It doesn't make anyone feel good. And I want to make sure that you stay in that flow, because the world needs your ideas and your creative expressions and your unique thoughts. So make sure that you share those and help one another out in the comments below this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. We do new videos every single week. So hit subscribe, share this with someone who may need to hear it, and also hit that like button if you enjoyed it. And I will see you in the next episode.